The time for the meeting has arrived and it's past about 4 minutes. I want to go ahead and get started. I've got to be out of here by 2. I've got an education committee meeting I've got to go to. I want to go ahead and get started. I appreciate your attendance. The first part of the budget we're going to look at today is Section 22 from the Department of Early Care and Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned earlier, Commissioner Amy Jacobs is away sick today. Otherwise, she would certainly be here. But I'm happy to talk with everyone today about the Department of Early Care and Learning. As he mentioned, it's Section 22. And for us, with the exception of statewide changes, all of our recommendations pertain to the pre-K budget. And that's actually on page 3 of your packet. And the first item is item 130.1. And that's approximately $7.9 million for the merit-based salary increases. In this case, this will be a 3% adjustment for the pre-K teachers and lead teachers throughout the classroom. The next 2 items are statewide adjustments, which moves us to item 130.4. This is an additional $26.2 million approximately to implement the new pre-K compensation model, and this recommendation comes largely from the Education Reform Commission. Moving on to 130.5, that's an additional $2.3 million in additional funds for benefits and non-instructional costs in the classroom as needed. And lastly, we have item 130.6. This is a new item where the House is recommending to essentially use some existing funds for a one-time $300 materials type grant for supplies and materials in the classroom. And for that one, although we fully support the governor's recommendation, we also at the same time have no concerns with this, and we have talked with OPB as well and don't anticipate any challenges. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Jesse, you got any questions about decal budget? Do we have anybody to testify on the decal budget or a question either way? If not, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll next look at Section 24, Department of Ed. And the distinguished numbers cruncher, Mr. Ted Beck.
Thank you,
Ted,
Mr. Chairman.
if you would just go through this and highlight any changes that were either in the governor's recommended changes or House changes that may be there, and just we don't have, if we have any interest in further information, we'll stop you, but you can roll it pretty quick as far as I'm concerned.
Happy to do so. I think the first changes that you'll see where there's any variance from the governor's recommendations are in 141.5 and 141.6. The first of those is a 3% salary adjustment. These are changes you'll see in several other programs where the House has recommended additional funding for individuals in programs that weren't picked up in the governor's recommended merit pay package. The total amount across all programs is around $5 million. But you'll see it in both the ag education and the tech and career ed education program. Later on, you'll see it for school nurses, nutrition workers, transportation bus drivers, and there's a small increase in the RESAs as well. There is an increase also for $150,000 for the Young Farmers Program. The total base budget there is about $1 million, so there's an increase there that you'll see. Communities and schools is on page 8. That's item 146.1. The House has recommended an increase of about $150,000 there.
Can you give us a line item on that?
I'm sorry, it's 146.1.
Okay.
Again, that's communities and schools. Page 8. Total base budget there is also around $1 million. These are grants that we that manage, and I think you guys are fairly familiar with that program as well. Would like to touch on page 11. This is line item 150.2. This is a recommendation to replace state general funds in the Georgia Virtual School with tuition funds. We do have what has shown as a lapse for that program year over year. In actuality, a lot of those funds are the result of the natural business cycle for the GAVS program. We are essentially forward funding the first 3 months of the fiscal year with funds from the previous fiscal year, and so we do reserve those. They're not what I would call surplus revenues. There are some surplus revenues that we've had over the last couple of fiscal years that we have largely dedicated to curriculum development. We don't anticipate a very large swing in enrollment from the current academic year, so any reduction on the state fund side I think would probably be something that just actualizes. I don't know that we would have tuition revenue that would make up for this reduction otherwise. On the next page, 12, in the Information Technology Services Program, this is line item 151.5. We had requested and the governor had recommended $2.8 million related to our IT program. The House is recommending 1.6. That number does match the amount we'll be needing to utilize and have received as a result of the amended Appropriation Act. The gap there is indicative of positions that we're holding vacant to make up for the difference. As it stands, last week we had 21 state-funded vacancies in the IT program. For us to generate $1.2 million in savings, we would have to keep between 12 and 15 positions open throughout the fiscal year. And I believe that creates some risk that we would rather not have to manage. They have a fairly wide suite of applications that they're responsible for maintaining and developing, and it just leaves us in a position where we're not as agile as I think we would otherwise want to be to respond to changes, whether it be to the TEKS and LEAGS system, whether it's the recommendations coming out of the Education Reform Commission. But for us to be able to adequately address those and to manage those applications appropriately, I think we need to be as fully staffed as we can be. So any gap from that recommended funding level that the governor included in his budget is going to create challenges for us. On page 13, item 152.2, this is an adjustment to the RTF programs. This is the result of some additional and improved data that were received after the governor had the opportunity to put their budget together. These are more accurate numbers, and we do agree with the change there. It reflects the actual formula need for those programs.
You say you agree with the House?
We do.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting. Go ahead.
I wanted to go back to 151.5. The IT positions, you said without the additional funding that the House has taken away, you would, give me your scenario there.
For us to be able to manage, so the $2.8 million is what we believe we need to be fully staffed. That's in terms of both our state-funded positions and the contract technology positions that we have. For us to, if we only received 1.6, we would be in a place where we would probably have to manage through natural attrition 12 to 15 vacancies at any given time in order for us to generate enough laps. If everybody was hired and employed throughout the fiscal year, which is our goal, we would need between probably $3.5 million. But in the natural swing of things, you're going to have folks coming in and out, and we'll be able to be in a position to replace people who leave at the $2.8 million level. So that is what I would consider a fully funded IT program. Any difference from that, we're going to be managing positions down to account for the difference.
Thank you. Something we need to look at.
Again, item 153.5, this is part of the House's recommendation for the increased salary adjustments for non-certificated staff. This is the folks that are in the nutrition programs. I don't think you'll see any differences for equalization, local 5 mil. The only difference in the QBE program, starting on page 16, between the governor and the House's budget is line item 157.7. This is for the Special Needs Scholarship Program. The governor's recommendation was for $2.6 million. The House has struck that. The program itself tends to fluctuate in its population over the course of the year. At certain points, there's 4 entry and exit points, and so you'll have more students at certain points and fewer in others. Traditionally, or at least over the last several fiscal years, we have surplused or otherwise lapsed money in this program. So we believe that the base budget that we have now should be enough to maintain. I think we had about 2,900 students at the last count. Again, we would be funded in such a way to account for those. So we don't think this poses any immediate challenge to us being able to meet our obligation there. And I believe the House has indicated that if there was a need to adjust it, we would have an opportunity to look at that as part of the amended 17 budget. But as it stands, I think that reduction is okay.
So you concur with the House?
I don't think we would need it immediately, like I said, unless there was a real sizable shift in the number of students entering that program. I don't think we would have a need for additional funding at this time. Items 157.10 and 157.11 are again part of the merit package proposed by the House. These are for school nurses and for bus drivers. Item 157.12 is just language. There is no actual change to our budget, but it adjusts and reflects the changes made in, I believe, the Department of Community Health's budget related to health insurance for non-certificated staff. In the RESA program on page 17, item 158.1 is a 3% salary enhancement recommended by the House for the individuals in those programs. And item 158.2 is an increase of about $250,000 for the PBIS program and the RESA agencies. The total budget there existing is around $800,000, so this would move that to, I think, close to $1.1 million in total. These are funds that are largely spent on professional development in the PBIS program, actually in schools.
Senator Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PBIS supporters, is this something new? Who are these people?
No, ma'am. So there's probably two different components that we're talking about, but the program itself is a behavioral-based assessment and evaluation program that a lot of school districts have implemented, and with much success. The department itself operates a portion of this. We go out and we help set the curriculum and the standards and to develop the materials to implement this inside of school districts. The RESAs also have individuals that go out and do similar work. The curriculum and development group and school improvement program can probably speak to it a little bit more efficiently than I can, but again, the idea is to enhance the school climate in such a way that the school can begin to focus largely on the academic and instructional portion of its day. So there's various behavior management techniques that are involved in that help either reduce instances where the schools have not necessarily rely on school suspension, those kinds of things.
Is this something new?
No, ma'am. It's been in existence for several years.
Okay, and 158.1 is the salary adjustments for whom?
For individuals in the RESA program itself.
In RESA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe there's one final salary adjustment on page 21. This is an increase to the tech and career ed program. As I mentioned, there are teachers that are in those programs that are funded at the district level. This would be a way to enhance the salaries for those specific individuals, either through the extended day or the summer programs. Again, identical to what you see in the ag ed program.
Do you know offhand how many teachers we have active in classrooms in this state in FY16?
I'm going to hazard a very rough guess. I think it's around 115,000, but we have a CPI report that has an exact number.
I'm talking about Teach for America.
Oh, and Teach for America. I'm sorry, I don't.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about the Teach for America line item in 159.5.
I don't know the number of teachers offhand, but we do have some information that we can provide for you.
Okay. I said we've got allocations in that. Some is for professional development of existing members and pre-service training for those coming in. Do you know the numbers of teachers that you're going to have coming in?
I don't. Our existing budget for the Teach for America program is $275,000. Like I said, I've got a breakout of how many we've funded through that. their total state budget, or not state budget, I'm sorry, their total budget for the state of Georgia, I think, is at or around $4 million. So the state's share of that is obviously a fairly small portion at this point.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Who would have that data?
I'm sorry?
Who would have that data on the census? No,
There's some folks from the Teach for America program that I can put you in touch with.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
again, I've got some of their materials that I'll share with you.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions, we can go over specific items.
Y'all have any other questions? I think not. I think we're in good shape.
Easy enough. Thank you.
Governor's office. We don't have anything from PSC, but I think we have Governor's Office of Student Achievement. Dr. Todd.
Good afternoon. There is perhaps one item of interest that you might want to talk about briefly. Our section of your document starts at the bottom of page 24, and the item that is a change in the House version is 183.5, which is on the top of page 25. This does not increase any funds in our budget, but it does specify the use of $500,000 to provide grants to local school systems to allow them to be better able to offer AP STEAM courses. GOSA does not agree with this particular item. We feel like it is in the best interest of the state to maintain as much flexibility as possible and not specify uses in the budget document of the Innovation Fund funds. However, we have communicated to the House Appropriations Chair as well as to College Board Representative Ms. Dixon our willingness to work with them, and have already begun some discussions about how to structure a grant to rural and high poverty districts that are not currently offering these courses, so that we'd be able to help them prepare teachers as well as have the materials and structures in place that they needed to offer the courses.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Thank you.
Are there any questions from those attending? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who would wish to make any comments about the proposed budget? Matthew? Whatever budget item you'd like to address, if you want, you can go to the podium. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Matthew Gamble with the Georgia Association for Career and Technical Education, and I've handed you a copy of the 2017 fiscal year capital equipment requests that have come from school systems from around the state. This funding would go directly to purchasing equipment that is used in career and technical and agricultural education labs and is very important to the lifeblood of CTAE. In the House budget, there was an additional $4.8 million that they put in to help pay for some of this. But there's still outstanding around $6 million that has not been accounted for yet. It was not in the governor's budget, but it did come to the Department of Education and was submitted to OPB back in August when they started putting the budget together. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention. And I've highlighted Cobb County and of course Senator Stone County and your district as well, just so you can see the requests that have come in. These requests change on year to year depending on what systems are opening, which programs, And so if you don't see a particular county on here, it's not because they haven't gotten money before or they might not get money in the future. It's just they did not have a program they were planning to open in the next school year, and they had not submitted a request to the department. So with that, I'd like to just thank you for any support that you can provide us for this, and I'll be happy to answer questions if there are any related to this.
Are there any questions? Senator Sims.
These suggestions, are they already included in the budget? Is that what you're saying?
No, ma'am, they are not included in the budget at this time. Now, the House did, in the budget that they passed last week, provide about $4.8 million, but there's $10 million worth of requests here that still are unaccounted for. And this is capital money, by the way. This is not program money. This is usually found in the back of the budget underneath the Department of Education bond section.
Senator Stone.
Yes, I just want clarification. These add up to about $9.5 million.
Yes, sir.
These are in addition to capital requests that we've already seen?
No, this is the total amount that was requested from systems to the Department of Education. And this entire amount did not make it into the governor's budget that was put out at the very beginning of session.
How much is in the budget? Any of it?
At this point, no, other than what the House has just put in their FY17 budget.
And you said that was how much?
I believe $4.8 million. Mm-hmm. I know you get hit up for a lot of things. This equipment is what the teachers use to teach these classes. These classes have already been constructed. They're ready to open next school year. Without this equipment, they don't have anything to teach with.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Tippins and committee members, I'm just here as the chairman of the Georgia Alliance of Therapeutic Services. We have many of the children who cannot be served in the public school system or in our residential treatment facilities. And I just want you to know that we support the funds that have been put in under item 152.1, the merit-based pay adjustments, and 152.2, which is the increase in funds for the schools within the residential treatment facilities. These funds are critical to us as we provide services for those children and prepare them for return to the larger community. So I appreciate the fact that they are in the budget and any support that you can give to that item.
Okay, do we have any questions? Does that conclude your remarks? Does that conclude
That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Helen?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Helen Sloat with Nelson Mullins, Raleigh, and Scarborough, and I'm here today on behalf of Youth Villages, Together Georgia, and Multi-Agency Alliance for Children, and those facilities which operate the residential treatment facilities. I'm speaking in behind Ms. Skinner at page 13 of your budget document. It's lines 152.1 and 152.2. We would just also raise support in those two items. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you very much. Rob?
Good afternoon, Chairman. I'm here on behalf of Rob Fortune with McGuire Woods, here on behalf of Teach for America. You had asked a question, so I thought I'd just answer it and respond briefly. Teach for America, as I think y'all know, is a teacher placement program all over the United States. And we currently have, and Senator, this responds to your specific question, 61 first-year core members.
How many?
And 61.
61.
And 98 second-year core members. as well as 450 alums who are serving both in the classroom and as department heads and otherwise directly involved in education. And that's what this recommended appropriation increase is going towards. It's entirely focused on impacting outcomes for children in classrooms in only in Title I schools. That's where TFA focuses, is on those schools where the students need it the most. And I'm also an alum of the program. I'm happy to answer any questions I can related to it.
Acoustics are not real good. The 61, is that existing total teachers?
No, sir. Sorry. So currently, Teach for America is a 2-year program. So if you tally up, our current total is 100. We have 61 first-year teachers and 98 second-year teachers. So a total is 169 total teachers. Excuse me, 100. I apologize. 159.
And you have 468 alums?
Yes, sir. 450.
Pardon?
450 alums.
450. Okay.
Yes, sir.
One other question. Do you have any teachers in your current teaching force who have been there more than 3 years?
Yes, sir. Yes, I believe I can get you those specific numbers, but I believe nationally Teach for America retains teachers for at least that third year. I believe it's around 50%, but I'll get you that exact total.
So the 98 figure that you have is second?
Or second
2
years
or longer, is that
no,
right?
No, sir. The 98 is the number of second-year teachers, so they're in their second year of teaching.
Okay. Well, now, are the alums currently, are they employed, or are they
Yes, sir.
just alums? So you've got 450 alums of Teach for America who
have taught at least 2 years. Some of them have taught as many as 10 years. Teach for America has been in Georgia for, I believe, now 15 years.
Okay.
So you've got alums kind of across that spectrum, some of which may have started somewhere else and transferred into a teaching job here, some of which have always been placed here.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else who would like to speak? Hearing none, I appreciate your participation. The meeting is adjourned.